So for section 4.3, we're going to start talking about some properties of logs, okay? So there are three main properties that we're going to be talking about, and then we're going to utilize these properties to help us do some other stuff mathematically. So for this first video, we're just going to talk about what the properties are and how to go through them, okay? So we have all three of them listed here. For any of these, B, M, and N are all going to be positive numbers. B is going to be our base, so it can't equal 1. M and N are what are going to be in the log, or what we're taking the log of, so those need to be positive. And then P can be any real number, okay? So we're going to talk about the product rule, the quotient rule, and the power rule. And I'm going to break each one of these down. So we're going to start with the product rule. And so what the product rule says is, if I have log base B, they're showing two things, this can be expanded, M and N, then I can separate that into log base B of the first thing plus log base B of the second thing. Okay, so we're going to take a look at a couple of examples here, and we're going to talk about how to expand them. Okay, so here's what we've got. The first one that we had was log base 6 of 7 times 11. Okay, so we've got two things that are being multiplied together. So we can separate this into log base 6 of 7 plus log base 6 of 11. Now you may be asking, well, why do I need to do that? Well, number one, this is a larger number, so we would be taking the log of 77 here, but we can separate it. Now, most times we're not going to have that this was two numbers. It's going to be letters or something like that. So for example, this next one is log of 100x. Now notice there's no base written here. We've talked about that this is common log, so that means that this is an understood base of 10. So again, following my product rule, I can separate this into log 100 plus log x. Now, with log 100, we can either put that on a calculator, or we could do equals value and do a little loop-de-loop. This winds up being 2. So then I have 2 plus log x. Now, where this makes this nice, I don't know what x is, but up here, I'm going to have to multiply it by 100. And it could get potentially very large there. And then I've got to take the log of it. Down here, I'm just going to take the log of that number, and then I'm going to add 2 to that value. Okay, so it makes it a little bit nicer. Now, let's go back, and we're going to talk about the second one, about the second property that we had. So the second property that we have is going to be the quotient rule, okay? And so the quotient rule deals with division, okay? So what we have here, and when you see me write this, I'm actually going to write that M over N kind of as a vertically stacked fraction instead of this kind of side-by-side notation. So we have log base B of M over N can be separated into log base B of M minus log base B of N. So we're doing the top minus the bottom. So we're going to look at a couple of examples for this one as well. So if I have log base 8 of 23 over x, okay, so I have a fraction, I can separate this to log base 8 of 23, so the top, minus log base 8 of x. So I can separate this out. Again, 23 may or may not divide pretty by x, whatever x is. So this allows us to kind of have them as two separate things. Now, another one. Now, for reference, I write natural log LN in script, okay, or in cursive, so that you know that it is LN. This is not necessarily a notation that every person uses, but it is one that I use. So if you see me write LN in script, it is natural log, okay? I'm going to e to the 5th over 11. So I'm going to start by separating this. So I have natural log of the 5th minus natural log of 11, okay? Now, we talked about on our properties, if you have a log with a base, remember that natural log has a base of e. Against an e thing, we can do some canceling off here. So this natural log because it is against an E thing, we'll cancel off, leaving me just the 5. So it's going to be 5 minus natural log of 11. So we can clean that up just a bit as that processes. Okay. So we've got one more property that we're going to deal with. Okay, and that is our power rule. Okay, and so what the power rule says is if you have the log of something that has a power on it. So for example, that natural log of e to the 5th. Okay, so we had another option for how to deal with that. But if we can't do the little cancel off thing, one of the things we can do is we can bring that power right down out into the front of our problem. Okay, so let me bring up that so we can take a look. So let's say that I had log base 6 of 3 to the 9th. Okay, y'all, I don't want to deal with 3 to the 9th. It's going to be stupid big. Okay, I don't want to deal with that. So the 9 is going to come down right out in front. So this is going to be 9, and it is multiplication of log base 6 of 3. Now, sometimes you will see this just written 9 log 6 3 because it's a multiplier. And so they won't necessarily put that multiplication dot in there. So, for example, natural log of the cube root of x. Now, there is an expectation that when you see something like a cube root or a square root or any sort of roots, the first thing that you're going to do there is you're going to convert that into its fraction power. So a cube root is a 1/3 power. So now I can bring that 1/3 out in front, and I have 1/3 natural log of x. Okay. So one more. We've got log x plus 4 squared. Now, y'all, I do not want to square this out. I do not want to put x squared plus 8x plus 16. I don't want to have one big thing. So I'm just going to let this power come sit right out in front. And I'm going to let that sit as 2 log, and then I'm still going to use my parentheses x plus 4. So these are 3 basic rules that we have. We've got our product rule. So multiplication goes to addition. Our quotient rule, division goes to subtraction. And now we have our powers can come down out in front. In the next couple of videos, we're going to see how we can utilize this to help us do some math.